Of the recent news of various Game Boy games coming to the Switch, I decided to make a short list on games that I would like to come to the Switch, via the Virtual Console.
Which Pokemon has bumpers and flippers? All of them. Introducing Pokemon Pinball, now with its own Rumble feature for Game Boy Color. The new way to catch them all.
Pinball is a game that's never interested me personally, as going for high scores in games has never been an interest of mine. Pokemon Pinball is slightly different however, as in this pinball game you can catch Pokemon, adding them to your in-game Pokédex. This can be achieved by completing certain tasks on the pinball machine. Taking it a step further, you can go on to evolve the Pokemon by achieving various other objectives. The game also gives you the option of picking two different maps, machines, tables, and if you're particularly good at pinball, which I am not, you can enter boss stages, allowing for an extra type of challenge. One thing I will warn you of though, is to turn down your volume before hitting the Pikachu.
This TV ad that's sure to rattle some cages.
All right, son, point out the animal that did this to you.
The beast is back, now with 100 levels of pain. Donkey Kong, new for Game Boy.
Now, okay, there's already a million different versions of Donkey Kong, all readily available, but this one gets on the list, as I've personally never played the original Donkey Kong. And to be honest, there doesn't seem to be that many good Game Boy or Game Boy Color games that Nintendo aren't already planning to bring back. Unless we mention the original Pokemon games. What made this game special is its use of the Super Game Boy, which allowed you to play Game Boy games on the SNES. While this game is currently available on the 3DS via the Virtual Console, this is going to change, as both the Wii U and 3DS Virtual Console will become discontinued on the 27th of March this year. This game is similar to most of the other Mario vs Donkey Kong type of games, with Mario starting at the bottom and climbing up all the way to the top to save Pauline.
涼子、何やってんだ？
ドラゴンクエストモンスターズ2出たのよね、2。
姉ちゃん、どこまで進んでる？
あ、スライムとスライム配合するとキングスライムになるんだ。
なんだ配合って。って言ってる間にキング広瀬になってる。
嘘。さすが女優。え？っていうか今度はメタル広瀬に。
マジ？ハマったのね。ゲームボーイ用ソフトドラゴンクエストモンスターズ2ルカの旅立ち3月9日発売。エニックス。
Dragon Warrior Monsters, or Dragon Quest Monsters, is a spin-off of the much-beloved Dragon Quest franchise. This game is like a mix between Pokemon and Dragon Quest, which some of you may recognise if you've played the Joker series. The game works very similar to Dragon Quest games with turn-based combat, with you controlling a party of characters, but with monsters from the Dragon Quest universe instead of your normal human characters. While both games have remakes, they're in Japanese and have yet to be translated. The biggest draw of this game is what separates it from other Pokemon-esque games, which is its breeding mechanic, which allows you to create different monsters based on which monsters are bred together, allowing for many different combinations.
Konami.
I'm sorry for not having an advert for Metal Gear Ghost Babel, but there didn't seem to be any online, as it must have slipped under the radar. Anyway, Ghost Babel takes place in an alternate continuity, taking place after the first Metal Gear game. Not that that means much to me, as I've never played any of them. What piqued my interest, however, was the fact that the game was a 2D stealth game, for a console that still existed when I was born. The game starts out with an opening lasting around 14 minutes, and this continues throughout the game with long drawn out dialogue. Playing through the game, I actually had a lot of fun. Nothing felt particularly frustrating, which I would have expected from an old 2D stealth game, and graphically, the game still looks fairly good. The plot involves Snake coming out of retirement to destroy another Metal Gear, which, to me, and those of you who know little about the Metal Gear series, is a big, scary robot, which in this case is armed with nuclear weapons. The game features around 13 levels, and also has 6 bosses for Snake to sneak and fight through.
My name is Marche. I am a warrior in a land called Ivalice. Can you please help me destroy the crystals so I can leave?
You may call me Ritz, but you may not use my sword, spells, or magic without asking. They are dangerous. If you call, I'll explain.
Mute is my name. Feel free to call. Otherwise, I may become irritable.
The people of Ivalice are standing by to talk about Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, only on Game Boy Advance. Rated E for everyone.
Now, as someone who's only dipped their toes into tactical games like this, and has only played a handful of Final Fantasy games, this game intrigued me. Those of you who enjoyed the job-based system of the other Final Fantasy games may enjoy this one, as there are a total of 34 jobs in the game. For those of you who don't know what a job is, in the context of the game, it's basically like a specific role with its own set of abilities and spells, like a warrior, a mage, or a priest, with some of the jobs requiring you to learn skills from the other jobs before unlocking them. The story revolves around Marche and his friends, all of which are transported to a magical world via a magic book, the name of the land being Ivalice. And although all their dreams seem to come true in this magical land, something isn't quite right.
泣ける泣けますね、なんかあんなうるっとくると思わなかった。危ない危ない。仕事柄セリフに引き込まれるところがあって、その一行一行が重いですよね。単純にゲームって思えない。切ない。
ゲームボーイアドバンスマザー3。
Now that was a surprisingly somber advert for a game like Mother 3, which was full of wacky characters and enemies. Well, actually it's not that surprising really, as the game is full of sad moments, especially considering the fact the game follows the story of a small child. Mother 3, believe it or not, is the third game in the Mother franchise, and arguably the best. Despite its main character, Lucas, featuring in the Smash Bros. Franchise, the game was never translated or sold outside of Japan. Why is that? I'm not entirely sure. What I can tell you, however, is the game is a solid turn-based RPG, featuring timeless graphics, funny moments, a gripping story with colourful characters along the way, with some pretty funky music. Will this be the opportunity for Mother 3 to release outside of Japan? Probably not, but you've got a dream, right?
Game Boy Advance. Miracle. Magical. Sonic. Sonic is a superstar. Sonic Advance.
Despite a large amount of people thinking there hadn't been a well-received Sonic game since Sonic Adventure 2, the Sonic Advance series features 3 well-received games, all for the Game Boy Advance. The game follows a classic 2D Sonic formula. Eggman does something bad, Sonic goes to stop him. While this may be a solid Sonic game, you're also given the option of playing as Knuckles, Tails, Amy, and, from the second game onwards, Cream, with each one having different moves and playstyles from the other. The game is currently available via the Virtual Console on the Wii U in Japan. Luckily, you can still play the first game on your classic N-Gage, the Nokia handheld console. The advert wasn't funny or wacky enough to go through testing. Sorry. Pokemon Red Rescue Team was a Game Boy counterpart to the Pokemon Blue Rescue Team for the DS. The game, like many on this list, is still available on the Virtual Console, and unless you've already missed it, its remake is also available on the Switch. The reason that I think both of these games, this is Red and Blue, should be available is because of the different visual styles between the originals and the remake. And while the fact the game has been remade recently does decrease its chances of being added, the same could be said for Link's Awakening, which was one of the release titles for the Game Boy games on the Switch. For any of you that haven't played any of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, it's a dungeon crawler in which the player, a human who has recently been turned into a Pokemon, and their partner become a rescue team. While they uncover the player's history, as they have recently suffered from amnesia, the duo also have to figure out what's going on with the mysterious natural disasters going on in the Pokemon world. And while this may be the end of the list, were there any Game Boy games you guys wanted to be on the Switch? And if so, please put them in the comments below.
Otherwise, I may become irritable.